So I saw this article and, I knew I had to do a video on it at some point. And it said that 1 in 3 Americans are cashing out their 401ks when they quit. And this really concerns me because, people don't have then money in the time in the market. Maybe they work someplace for 5 years, they save up 50, 20,000, whatever the number is, and then they cash it out, and they're using it to support their lifestyle. Maybe they're getting a car or something like that, but, they're probably getting hit with taxes and stuff like that. But then they're missing out that window of savings, and I believe it really hurts their eventual net worth. I mean, if we look at, this is a quick article. This was actually pretty recent, as of the beginning of December in 2025, and it's early 2026. So it's maybe, a month old. And they have the average net worth of individuals. And, the average, I always say at least be the average, right? Don't be the mean, because, the average 50-year-old has almost 1.4 million or something like that. But the mean, and that's what most people have, half the people have less, half the people have more, isn't even 200,000. And so I think when people, going back to the article, 1 in 3 cash it out, they may not realize that they're hurting themselves in that savings. And I think, I put together a couple of screenshots here. And I think this is the old days, right? Like, you felt like, hey, you had Social Security. I know I still feel like I can get security. I know a lot of people say it's not going to be around, and I firmly believe it will be, because it's paid by people that are putting money in. But there is talk nowadays about doing means testing, lowering the amount. Yes, there's other options, upping the payroll taxes and stuff like that. But, 20 years ago, people would come out with, a considerable amount of Social Security, maybe covering 30%, 40%, whatever the percentage is. Pensions would then cover a lot of the rest. And then personal savings, and maybe people didn't, I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't pretend to be a financial advisor or anything like that, or to understand all the details into the history. But I suspect people probably didn't have huge personal savings, and they relied on pensions and Social Securities for the most part. But today, when I look at the future, this is where I get very concerned. I mean, pensions are almost gone. I would have to pull up the exact statistics, but I bet you it's under, it can't be 20%, or at least I don't anticipate it being 20%. So it's only 1 in 5 that might get a pension. And nowadays it's definitely even harder. And this is where Social Security is. I like the little thing here. It's a shortened leg. Well, I think it's a part of your strategy, saying that it's going to cover 50, 60% of your salary. I don't think that anymore. I'm going into the 30%, hopefully covering 30%. And especially, I don't think most people, and I really didn't understand this up until that long ago, your Social Security is also prorated. So, it is definitely not prorated, it's progressive. So people that are on the lower income side will actually make more from a percentage wise of their Social Security, whereas a more of a higher net worth person is going to see a smaller percentage. So if you are on that higher side, higher income side, you need to save. So that's where personal savings, I think, needs to be even stronger. And if 1 in 3 are cashing out, that is a huge concern of mine. When I look at, and I really like the Fidelity savings by age rule. I actually saw an article not too long ago that somebody that was, said, hey, I'm 30, and they said, oh, I need 1 times my salary, and they were making, I think they said $30,000. So 10 times that when they turn retirement, they would only need 300,000. And that's not how the rule works. It's not as at the age of 30 you look at that salary. It's at the age of each of these milestones you multiply it by whatever the number is. So yes, at 30, if you're making $30,000, it's one time. So you should have $30,000 saved. But when you turn 50, if you're making 50,000, it's now six times 50,000. It's not six times 30,000. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And again, even I, starting out, I think I started my career mostly around that early 20s. Number one, I didn't even know about this savings by age rule. But then most people don't realize that with increases and with inflation, you're actually, your salary is going to go up, and it could be considerable, especially depending on what your starting salary is and through your professional career. But if you take, and I'll show you a figure in a minute. If you start off at a certain salary, it might be double, triple easily by the time you retire, growing at a 30%. So that's why I like this. Hopefully some of you might get this. While I think the process to save is easy, it's really hard to do. And that's why I like this. Set it, forget it, right? Pick a percentage, set it, and keep going. I see people out there. I think Dave Ramsey says you got to save 15%. I know the money guys, they're 25. Although they do say when you're much younger, just save something. But, it really depends upon what time you start and how quickly you ramp up your savings. So that percentage could be 10%, it could be 15, it could be 25, it could be 40%. And so let's take a quick look at a couple numbers here. So the first thing I thought I'd share and show that somebody making $50,000 for their working career. So let's jump over here and actually look at how much they could actually save with only a 10%, right? Because I think a lot of people say 10% is on the low side, but I want to show that it actually is definitely feasible. So if you're saving 10% and your salary starts at $50,000 and you're 22 and you're going all the way to 65, so that's 43 years of working. This is with no match, right? I wanted to be as conservative as possible. You could have close to $2.5 million. So great start, great salary. I mean, that's well over the average. That's well over the mean. So I think if you start early and you save something, you could have a considerable amount of money saved and put you into that 10 times X. But now let's look at what 10 times X really means. It's not 10 times 50,000. It's whatever your ending salary is when you're 65. So I brought up this and I said 50,000, 3% increase for 43 years. This is what your salary is going to be, hopefully, when you retire at 65 at a 3% increase. It's $178,000. So when you're starting out and you're making 50, that is a huge difference to then jump to 178,000 when you retire. Again, that is over 43 working years. But then what are you going to need to retire on? It's 1.7 million, almost 1.8. So again, when we look at the average and the mean, almost 1.8. Nobody has that on the average, right? At six, in between the 60 and 70 age, right? Some of these people actually get close, but that's the average. The mean is not even 300,000. And then again, this is where I get very concerned is, so this person actually has it, right? But that's only if they started at 22 right off the bat, right? If they decide to wait, and I hear this all the time from other people that are a little bit younger, is, well, I can't do 10%. I have no money. I'll just wait, right? So what if you decide to wait until you're 32, right? Now, before we look at the amount, you're not going to have 50. You're not going to be earning $50,000 at the age of 32. Well, let's come back to what you would be making. So 10 years in of your career, you're actually going to be making closer, a little over 67,000. So by waiting 10 years, you have 1.4. You're already behind the curve, right? At a 10%. Now, maybe you would jump this up to 15% or something like that, and you might make it. But life gets in the way, and I would say be a little bit more aggressive earlier on, and getting ahead of the curve. So when the kids start coming around, when the colleges start coming around, potentially weddings and stuff like that, you have a little bit of breathing room, and you're not having to struggle because you lost 10 years of saving. You could go, and I won't do it right now, but you could have, if you had started off at that $50,000 at a 10%, you can see here, at 22, you have 2.4. You actually could reduce it as you get older, right? When life events happen. So please, one of the things, again, please don't take it out, right? Don't use it as, I like the way here, a cash grab and go buy a car. Roll it into something else. Put it into your investments. And really, more than anything, set it and forget it. Like, let it grow, and it will grow well, and put you in the right position. Hope you found this helpful. I'd be curious to hear what you've done in your career. While I like to highlight this, some of this comes from my own experiences. And I started out, and I think I was probably 23, 24. I signed up for a mutual fund with Fidelity, I think. Again, it was many, many years ago. And it was an interesting aspect. It was, you were supposed to put $100 a month into an account, and it would grow. I think it was probably 10, 15 years. And I think they had said you were going to get into the $70,000, $80,000 range of growth from putting the money in. The one caveat of this was the first year they took 50% of the fees. Okay, so if I put in $100, they actually took $50 away. I don't know if these type of accounts exist today, to be honest. So at the end of 1 year, instead of having $1,200 in the account, I only had $600. And I think after 2 or 3 years, I said, "Oh, I'm done with this," right? And I took the money, and I forget what I even did with it, right? But I lost 50% of my income right in that first year, with no growth, right? And so that's why, these type of things, and when I see 1 out of 3 doing it, and I would say, I'll never do that. I can look back at myself, and I actually did that type of thing. And so that's why these things, I'm so passionate about it. And hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So again, hope you found this interesting. I'm curious on what you do. Have you started at 3% and moved it up to 6, or how is your professional career and your savings goals aligned? So again, hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye.